Authors Press.
Hello everyone, my name is Nicole Richardson and I'm from Authors Press. Today is August 23rd, 2022. Welcome to another fantastic virtual interview where I'm gathered today with Richard H. Grabmeier, the author of Peter Olaf. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Richard?
Yes, I could say I'm just a plain old country boy from Minnesota. I spent 3 years in the military, the Army Corps of Engineers in the United States and in Vietnam. And after that, I went into heavy equipment in this country. And I spent 33 years doing supervision and design of heavy equipment. Then I got tired of that and I started writing books.
Wow. So you didn't know you were always going to be an author?
Oh, not at all.
Huh, interesting. Could you tell us a little bit about your book as well?
Yeah, Peter Olaf is a book that I wrote out of dedication to my grandfather who came from Sweden when he was 17 years old.
Okay.
It's a story of things that could happen to a man of his age. Now, it is fiction. It is not a summary of his life. Okay?
Okay, so it's like a historical fiction?
That's right.
Okay. And how did you come up with the title?
Well, since his name was Peter Olaf Håkansson, I thought that Peter Olaf would be a reasonable name. I don't know if I succeeded in that.
Okay, so the title of the book is your grandfather's name.
That's right.
Has your book changed significantly since you first wrote it?
Nothing has changed since I first wrote it except the cover.
Okay.
I had the cover changed in a new edition. The reason was because I have these two kids on the cover and people equated that with a love story, which wasn't what I was trying to do. I was trying to write a book on a man's immigration to this country. And so I put a picture of Peter Olaf himself on the new cover.
Oh, so the picture on the cover is actually your grandfather.
That's right. In the new book, I don't have a copy of the new book here, but the new book, the picture on the cover is my grandfather's actual picture from the logging camps. And there's two women in the background signify his two loves in his life.
Okay. Thank you for telling me a little bit about the cover. Could you describe your ideal reader or your target audience?
Okay, I would say the ideal reader or target audience is anybody past early childhood, teenagers on up. I had, when it was first published, I had older people who really loved the book because it reminded them of what it was like when they were kids.
Okay, so it doesn't sound like you have a target audience, just anyone who can understand.
Right, anybody who can understand.
Okay, For my next question, I'd like to know, what was your favorite part of writing this book?
what I liked best was the research I did, where I had to dig through all kinds of books and magazines and on the web and stuff to find out enough to write the book. And the part I didn't like was having to work at the same time as I was writing. Does that cover it?
Yeah, it does. How important was professional editing to your book's development?
Okay, the short answer on that one is it wasn't, because I had previous writing experience. But the long answer, the actual true answer was it was really important because I was married to a high school English writing teacher, and she helped me out a lot. And everybody should have somebody to edit and read their books and give them insight into what you've got.
Okay. What is some advice you wish someone had given you before you started writing?
Well, actually, if I had known how difficult the publishing and promotion process is, the book probably wouldn't have been written. But I wrote it over 20 years ago when competition wasn't as strong as it is today. It was the beginning of the computerized print-on-demand publishing. So that meant it didn't have to sell a ton of books to stay viable. What I would say to any would-be author today is to do it because you love doing it and because you want to leave a mark on your family legacy. Very few books are profitable to any degree to first-time authors.
You know, I think that's some really good advice because too many people write to make money and not to make a story.
That's right, because there's going to be maybe 1 out of 100 that's going to make money. Excuse me.
How did writing this book make you feel? What kind of emotions did it evoke?
Well, the writing was a totally new experience because I was writing fiction that still had to be believable. I couldn't just take it off the top of my head. When I had completed it and was receiving high approval and requests for more Peter and his family, it was an incredible high.
Yeah, I can only imagine how good that felt. What surprised you the most while you were writing this book?
Well, the thing that surprised me was how easily and naturally the story came together. It just seemed to find its own way. I had always written technical things before, books on engines and the like, and that doesn't require a lot of imagination. I was surprised at how easily fiction came to me.
Okay. Would you say that you're pleased with the overall outcome of this book?
I'm very pleased because now after 22 years, the book is alive and receiving a resurgence in popularity. Hopefully its sequel, Suddenly a Larger World, which is currently in the publishing process with Authors Press, will profit from Peter's popularity.
I did not know you were writing a sequel. That's very good to know.
Yeah, it's being published right now by Authors Press.
Okay.
It's called Suddenly a Larger World, and it's Peter Olaf's young sons are now in World War I in France.
Okay. And that does kind of lead me to my next question. If there was anything else you'd like to talk about or mention?
Yeah, I would like to touch on it if I got enough time. I published The Prophet and the Warrior in 2019. which despite the bad timing caused by the COVID epidemic, is highly acclaimed and available everywhere. So I'm not a one-book author. And then I already mentioned the Suddenly a Larger World, which is a sequel to Peter Olaf. And then the history of Moses and Joshua, which is the prophet and the warrior. And that's follows the King James Version of the Bible. And if you've read any amount in the Bible, you know it's kind of dry and stuffy. It's not interesting. But I souped up all the stories with dialogue and various supporting characters. There's Adana, Moses' Ethiopian wife. It's mentioned with one line in the Bible, and she becomes a major supporting character. And on top of that, the new edition published by Authors Press even features professional reviews inside so that people can get a good idea what the book is about.
Do you only plan to write Suddenly a Larger World, or do you plan to make this a series?
Well, Suddenly a Larger World, I wrote it because a good friend of mine, who was one of my very good Peter Olaf fans, insisted that I write more about their family and what happened to them. And so I finally did it, and I wrote Suddenly a Larger World, which I says puts the boys, three of the boys, in World War I in France. And unfortunately, before I finished the book, Betty, that was her name, died. She just died suddenly by herself in her house. And that makes me feel bad.
I think you should write it in her honor, or more keep it in your heart in her honor. You know what I mean?
Right, I agree. And I didn't mention the last book of mine.
Okay.
Across the Chasm.
Yes, that's the book that you're featuring in the Manila Book Fair, correct? Right. Okay. And I know that since it is not currently published, there will be limited edition copies, if I'm correct.
That's right. And
that's very exciting.
It's a different book for me because I usually write historical stuff. But this one is not. It touches on the paranormal, transmigration of souls, and it involves serious romance in 2 time periods. So that's an interesting one for people who like wild romance stories.
Oh, that would be very, very fun to read. For my last question, I would like to know, is this the first time you've worked with Authors Press?
Actually, yes, though it's been for quite a while now. Obviously, I like working with Authors Press. They're good people to work with. In the beginning of my writing career, there were a few publishing choices. An author had to get published by a big-name company or self-published. I soon found out it was impossible to have any book, regardless of how good it was, published by the big companies, unless you knew somebody in publishing, or if you're a big-name person like a politician or an actor, because then your name would sell books. It isn't unfair, it's business. I found iUniverse, which was one of the first print-on-demand companies. And despite a few problems we had, Peter Olaf came out, and they did a good job, and people liked the book. The problem was that I had to work a job and try to promote my book. I did a pretty good job with book signings and the like, but I got tired of burning the candle at both ends, and I finally gave it up.
I'm glad that you finally decided to draw the line. Some people never do.
Oh, that's right.
So,
like I said, I was talking about selling books, and I found iUniverse, and they published in a computerized way. Despite a few problems, Peter Olaf was born. They did a good job, and people liked the book.
Right. And I remember that you also said that you had trouble because you felt like you were burning the candle at both ends.
That's right.
Nicole, can I insert something here?
Absolutely.
On Saturday, Rich is going to be 86 years old.
Wow, congratulations.
So I think that puts some of this into a better perspective.
Yeah, most
Now
definitely.
my secret is out.
You've been writing books for longer than I've been alive, which is probably the coolest thing ever. But other than that,
Peter Olaf is 22.
22? I'll be 20 in September.
Peter Olaf is older than you.
He is by a couple years.
Yeah, that's cool. Anyway.
Yeah. That's all the questions I have for you today. So unless you have anything else to mention, that's all I have for you.
Okay, I got a little bit something if I got a couple of minutes, a minute or two yet.
Okay, I'm listening.
I retired, and I took a job as president of an insurance company, and so I didn't have to spend full time. And so I started writing, and I wrote a big book. And the big book's name was The Scrolls of Eli Zakin. And it was a good book, and it was well written, but I couldn't find a publisher because of the negative view it took of Moses. My pastor at the time read the manuscript and didn't find it objectionable. So I took one section out of the book and revised it slightly. It became The Prophet and the Warrior, which is now acclaimed and available internationally. That's when my publishing career would have ended, though, because of COVID. If Kelsey Hart Author Press hadn't contacted me. They're a hybrid publisher, which simply means that they publish for a reasonable price. They also promote and sell the product. That's the difference. The promotion is effective and big time, but it costs money. It costs more money than the company could make in publishing books by unknowns. So it is up to the author to help foot the bill. If you can't afford that, you don't want to work with them. But if you can and want the best representation, your book can get go at Authors Press. I'm finished.
Wow. Thank you so much. That means a lot to us, more than you know. Gosh, I don't even know what to say. That made me so happy. Thank you so much. I personally put in a lot of effort working here. So I take pride when authors feel that we help them, you know?
Yeah.
If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to Authors Press either via phone number or email, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Sure.
This has been author Richard H. Grabmeier, the author of Peter Olaf, Suddenly a Larger World, Across Chasm, and a couple other books, and Nicole Richardson from Authors Press. Thanks so much for tuning in.